All right, we are live.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Atheist Republic Hangout. I am Nikisha. We have Ali, Armin, Casper, Erasmo, and Ollie so far this morning. Welcome, everybody. And today we're going to be talking about a bit of things, as always. It'll dart around. But we're going to start off talking about some of the attacks that Atheist Republic has been experiencing, what we're doing about it, how atheists can respond, also maybe in general just how atheists shape the religion conversation in the public sphere, how we can make these kinds of things known when atheists are singled out, specifically in social media. And welcome to Todd, who just joined us. So I would like to get started by talking to whoever wants to share a bit about what's been going on lately with the Atheist Republic group and with our team members. I know that there has been some activity that feels a little bit targeted, and I just want to remind everybody that when we talk about Facebook, we realize it's not an actual thing or a person. There's a lot going on in Facebook. There's a lot of algorithms. There are a lot of non-human components. So I want to make sure that we're not sounding too much like victims here, that we only talk about atheism being attacked if we have some evidence to back that up, so we don't come across as being a persecuted minority or something. But there is some stuff going on with Atheist Republic in particular, and we can go into maybe individual stories about how these sorts of things have affected you all. So I don't know if Armin, do you want to start off? That's usually a good place to go, and then Ali is usually really involved in the group as well, so maybe we can go to her after that.
All right, I'll just give you a summary of some of the things that we have experienced. You know, we usually do get a lot of people that come to our website, to our Facebook page, to our Google Plus page, and they tell us that we're being offensive or we need to keep our opinions to ourselves. We should stop talking about religions and just keep talking about our own views and stuff. So we get that all the time. Sometimes we do also get death threats, especially close to Dry Muhammad Day. The number of death threats goes up. We don't usually take them seriously. We one time had our Facebook. We have a public Facebook page. We also that sometimes we get heavy reports on, but we also have a private Facebook group for atheists that don't want to have their opinions all over their feed, for their friends and family to see. And that one, some people managed to report it so much that at one point got shut down. But then we managed to get the whole team and all the other atheist community to help us. Basically get there were so many reports against this decision by Facebook that eventually Facebook undid their decision and we got our group back. So that was one time we got a lot of reports, and other than Dra Muhammad Day. But then recently also we had this, after the Supreme Court decision in the United States to make gay marriage legalized, we posted we wanted to basically bring attention to the fact that this was a great step, but let's also not forget all the other people, especially in the LGBT community, that are being oppressed in other places. So this victory is a good reminder that other people are also around the world are being oppressed. And one of the worst places to be part of the LGBT community is Saudi Arabia. So what we did was we took a picture of Kaaba and we put the rainbow flag on it. We photoshopped it, and we basically said love wins everywhere, and basically put a message as a caption telling everybody that, you know, the fight is not over. We have to continue fight for equality everywhere. You know, then some people say, why did you choose Kaaba? Well, I personally thought that was a great decision, because if the day that gay marriage is accepted in Kaaba, in Mecca, is probably the day that it's accepted everywhere in the world, because that would be my guess is one of the last places in the world that would be accepted. So that was, I thought it was a good symbol. Did I think some people would be offended? Probably. I mean, people get offended by everything these days. But this amount, I didn't think Kaaba would, like, I thought Muhammad, drawing Muhammad was the, the highest amount of offense that you could get. This got so much attention, and we have had thousands, and I'm not exaggerating, like thousands of complaints and reports and threats. Just on the Facebook page, just on our inbox, I had to go over at least 5,000 messages just in the inbox. These not reports. We had, it is crazy, and a lot of them were death threats. A lot of them were promises, and I don't think they're serious. I think they're just threats, but promises of them finding us, killing us, raping our family. People telling me personally that they're gonna rape my wife, rape my mother, who's not even alive. These are like, I'm like, well, first of all, why are you threatening somebody else? You have an issue with me. I don't know, but they call us dogs and pigs. Muslims, a lot of Muslims think that's an offense everywhere. So, and they put pictures of ISIS doing horrible things to people and promising us that this is going to happen to you. They're tweeting ISIS Twitter accounts asking them to please help them do something about us. So that was kind of weird. But anyways, that has been going on for a while, and it's been continuous. It hasn't been. My wife was really afraid. I wasn't that much of afraid because I've seen these things before, and I don't think these are real, legitimate threats. But it's just psychological threats to people that are not used to it, right? And some people in the team even messaged me that they were considering quitting because of this, which I kind of calmed them down and told them that this is normal, this happens all the time. But I just think, and recently now the number of Facebook reports have gone so high. At first, Facebook kept on ignoring the reports, but now we're getting a lot of our posts taken down by Facebook for nudity in posts that has no nudity. Our personal accounts have been targeted, not just the Facebook page. A lot of our admins had their accounts suspended. My wife had her account suspended. Ali had her account suspended. Some other admins that I don't know if they want us to mention the name here had their account suspended. Andrew had his account suspended. He just mentioned me in the chat as for the second time. So and Facebook is even messaging some of us and telling us your account might be deleted completely. And for what? For posts that says it has no nudity in it, that does no nudity in it. So I thought Facebook would do a much better job at monitoring these things. I know it's not all hands-on people. It's just algorithms and computers. But I thought that at some point when you get a lot of reports, there's going to be one person at least, a human, checking it to make sure it's an actual legitimate report. I don't know how it works, but I was hoping that it was a little bit less automatic than what it seems to be right now, because it's being manipulated and people are using the report system to be able to silence things that they find offensive. Anyways, that was my summary, and I think I talked too much. I'm going to let other people speak now.
Thanks, Armin. I think that's really what I would like to focus on, as opposed to what Facebook is or isn't doing. I honestly don't. There's a lot of algorithms at play. There's a lot of non-human things going on behind the scenes at Facebook. So because I don't understand it, I don't really want to focus on Facebook. But this is happening because people, or a person with a bunch of technological tools that I also don't understand, but regardless, human beings are at work here. There are people who, for whatever reason, get really riled up about stuff that Atheist Republic does. It always comes on the heels of a thing. It's not random. There's one particular thing that we put out there that pisses off somebody or a bunch of people or a group that happens to coordinate, and then these waves start to happen. One of the things that they can do is report people that they see as admins in the group as being not actual people. And so that's one of the things that they can do if other things they're doing aren't working. And then that kind of cripples us for a little while. My account kept getting, even after I sent in my ID to prove that I was who I was, and I'm not even active in the group. I'm not an active admin, partly because I don't have the bandwidth to manage all of this stuff in the noise in my sphere. But there, even after I sent in my ID, then I was constantly having to prove that I was an actual person, and I couldn't get into my account, and it got suspended. And so I think there was kind of a cascade of reports, and then me doing what I'm supposed to do, and then reports, and then me doing what I'm supposed to do. So obviously this is frustrating. And one of the things that, again, I would like to talk about is how do we talk about it? How do we, as Atheist Republic, because we don't speak for atheists in general, how do we as Atheist Republic discuss these things that happen in a way that hopefully is productive to the conversation? This very often happens almost, I don't know, do you guys know, have we had coordinated attacks from other religions? Or does it almost always seem to be Muslims? Yeah, and the death threats, we get some pretty strong words from other religious groups, but the death threats, the rape threats, I'm going to hunt down your family and cut off your children's heads. Yeah, I've read a lot of these things come from people who claim to be Muslims, people who are mad about things that we say about Islam. What is that I want to emphasize that is continuously frustrating is that these aren't this isn't in response to us being mean to individuals. We're not attacking people. We're not even really attacking groups. We are voicing our opinion. We are saying things about ideas, and this is the response. And I think that's I think that's what I really want to get out there. And how do we do that? So I know that, Hassan, you wanted to talk about this issue. Does anybody want to discuss the Atheist Republic component in particular in terms of what's been happening lately? Anything to add to Armin? Ali?
Okay, yeah, just to add to what Armin was saying about the kind of messages that we've been getting. It's shocking to me, especially because a lot of Muslims do tend to want to be peaceful or try to be peaceful and respectful and nice. And the majority of these messages just weren't. And that was actually kind of shocking to me. Once every maybe 100, we'd get a nice person who would try to talk to us, reason with us, and even apologize, because it was a group of 65,000, it was a Muslim group of 65,000 people that particularly that targeted us. That's one that I know of. And so they knew about the horrible things that they were writing us and saying to us. And so we'd get a message saying, you know, hey, we're sorry that they're telling you these horrible things, but what you guys have done is horrible to us. So why can't you just go ahead and remove it, and it'll cause peace. If you take this down, then everyone can be happy. You'll stop getting the threats. We'll stop feeling offended. Everyone will be happy. And I was just like, why do you get the right to bully? Because it's basically what it is. You send in a pack of people to try to scare us and threaten to kill us, threaten to kill our kids. Why do you get to do that and then say, hey, can all stop if you just do what we want? That doesn't really make much sense. So being respectful, back to the people who are definitely being respectful to us, I didn't mind opening up a dialogue and kind of speaking to them about it. And when they'd say things like, we just don't want another incident like what happened in France. We don't want to see that happen to you. And I'd say, that's a very good point, because it shouldn't happen to us for any reason, right? Right. So then why are you coming to us to make us stop? Why don't you speak out about the group who is doing the things like they did in France? Those are the people, that's the place you need to concentrate your attention on. So we got to make a few points, but again, it was to maybe one in 100, maybe. I think I'm being nice with that statistic there. I think being very nice with that statistic. And so at least I did want to throw that out there, that not all were outrageously terrible, but most were, and they did actually target us admins, and I don't know if it's necessarily of the public page or of the private groups, but all of a sudden one day I just started getting flooded with friend requests from Saudi Arabia, people who are not in the Atheist Republic private group, people who are obvious Muslims, just tons of friend requests, lots of other inbox messages, which whenever it was directed personally towards me, and not at the Atheist Republic, it was me and my private page or my private profile, that's when I would just block, because like Armin said, a lot of it is threats. People are just angry. These aren't things that they're going to do. They want to spend $4,000 to coordinate flying over here and trying to find me. Good for them, but it's not going to happen. And so yeah, I'd go ahead and block them, and I don't take it seriously or personally. Some of them did try. I noticed that there were a lot of insults thrown at us that were meant to be insulting, but they outrageously were not insulting to me, especially when they would tell me that they were sleeping with my mother or going to rape my mother, and I'm like, I don't do what you want, dude. That one's on you. I guess. I don't know, but things that they thought would just be insulting to everybody, they're not insulting. So, and that just drives home the point that what you find offensive, not everybody finds offensive. The Kabbalah thing, they found it offensive. Well, not everybody found it offensive. So it just kind of helped drive that point home. It was really frustrating having my account shut down for 72 hours. After I had proved that I was who I was, that really frustrated me because a lot of people got their accounts back within hours, and I had to wait 72. So at least we've got that on file. At least we have that going. I don't care. I mean, I really don't care if people want to continue to report my account or not. I think that it's silly. I think that it's childish. But that's just kind of where we are. I think that we have the right to say what we want to say, and if people want to react how they want to react, that, again, is their right and choice. So, yeah, that's it.
Hassan.
Yeah, okay. In my opinion, here in Egypt, as a Muslim country, Islam is taught as absolute dogma. And the meaning of dogma that it does not allow for anyone to criticize this dogma, and anyone tries to criticize this absolute dogma that is a religion, especially Islam, may be killed or put in prison. Egyptian constitution in the Article 2, Islam is official religion of the state, and also we have penal code that criminalize any criticize in Islam, and we had example of this Islam Bahiri. But after the Egyptian revolution in 2011, many atheists now speak up and criticize Islam and Christianity, and picture themselves as atheists and speaking about atheism. So here in Egypt now, it is common to criticize Islam by atheists or maybe by secularists, and but just on social media, because not all of the Egyptian media prefer to host any atheist or anyone who to criticize Islam. But many Egyptian youth and also youth from the Arab world and Middle East country watch what are we saying on Facebook and the YouTube channel. So I think by keeping speaking up about atheism and criticize religion, maybe in the future it does not become culture taboo as used to be. So that's it.
Thanks, Hassan. I think this is also part of what I would like to consider in our conversation is how again just how we shape the conversation. So much of how these things are addressed now has to do with how the one group speaking talks about what it is they're talking about, and it's so important, the words we use and how the conversation is shaped. If we simply shape it as a conversation that is focused on my personal Facebook account or our particular accounts, and we're frustrated and it's annoying, those are true things, but if that's what we lead with, then it focuses on something that I don't think is actually as important as maybe the issues that are causing the people to do the things that they're doing when they're sending threats and reporting accounts and things like that. So having that background as far as how these people think is really important. So Erasmo has something to say, and then right after that, Casper, you can go ahead and chime in.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We're all just muted when you asked.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to add is I have been noticing these attacks on Atheist Republic recently, mostly this week, as I was waking up at 7 a.m. or when I was even hanging out with my girlfriend, I was checking out the Atheist Republic status as I've been attacked or my account has been suspended and so on and so on. So, although I haven't personally been able to receive or have the honor, quote mark, of being suspended by other people, I know how this thing works, and mostly it's just because a lot of people just report in before anybody says that, well, Mr. Obvious has been obvious, and just to let everyone know, and a solution that might work out for this problem is that even though a lot of people are reporting us constantly over and over and over again, to the point that people who are just posting news articles such as Owen or even Ali are just getting suspended no matter what. So my suggestion is that, again, even before anybody of you have already thought this out, to come up with contacts, come up with people who might know something about it, not just report it to Facebook or to Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, because the authority perk of receiving messages is changing nowadays, starting on YouTube, that only the most popular posts or messages or whatnot are getting received attention first, and posts or messages coming from people who might need the help the most are just left out at the straight bottom and not getting any attention at all. So my suggestion is to get some contacts, some people, some third parties from that might get some other contacts, and then these people getting other contacts, building up the authority perk, so that hopefully the message or the attention, the seriousness of this issue could be I don't know, keep in place, keep in order, keep it in a straight line, so that it reaches the respective authorities who can actually help us out defending ourselves. I don't want this to be a pervasive situation. I don't want that this becomes a greater problem for other people, for my family. Even though they are not atheists, they can be targeted too. I have been threatened not by atheist people, but by jealous people who think that I'm just stealing their girlfriends. I know how this feels like. It's just absurd. But the scary part is that even though this is an absurd problem, it can become serious to the point of threatening people and damaging people and erasing memories and stuff. Oh, this is just what I wanted to add to the problem.
Thanks, Erasmo. Absolutely. I'm getting an echo, so I'm going to leave. Erasmo, can you mute? There we go. There we go. Okay. There's a lot of good points in that, and I want to, we'll circle back around. I want to give Casper a chance to talk, and he might touch on some of that as well. We have had some of our members of our group get death threats from people who live locally to them. We definitely want to encourage people, if you're getting death threats from somebody who lives where you are, specifically if you know they live where you live, you have every right to report that to the police, and that is within your rights and probably is smart to do. Casper, go ahead.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Just to add a bit to what Erasmo said there. And also what we were talking about before about how we tend not to take this these death threats and everything so seriously. For some people that actually are in our team, they actually do live in Muslim. They actually do live in Muslim countries, and the threats that they receive are real threats. I mean, they could really impact them in the real world. So for us in the U.S., yeah, it's something that we can shake off, or for like Armin and you in Canada there, Makisha, it's something that we can kind of overlook. But for many of our members that are in places like Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Iran, it's not something that can be overlooked. These people will come to your home and they will murder you. And so it's something that we have to take serious on that level. The other thing that really bothers me about it is using the tactic of just flat out lying in order to try and shut us down and silence us is, I mean, it's horrible to see people doing that, and especially people that especially people that are supposed to be religious, and supposedly their religion tells them that lying is a sin and that it's wrong, and yet when it comes to trying to protect their religion, they don't have a single problem at all with lying about what we do, and up there for a minute, using lies to try and silence us and shut us down. And I think that's one of the points that we can really make, is that nothing that we've said in any of our news articles, blogs, or anything else are lies. We don't lie at Atheist Republic. That's a very important thing for us when we write news articles, blogs, everything. We provide sources. We try to talk about honest facts. And the Kaaba picture was a Photoshop picture trying to present an idea that we think would benefit the world. But it wasn't any sort of lie. There's nothing dishonest about it. We think that, yes, you should be willing to drape the Kaaba in a rainbow flag, or you know, fly a rainbow banner in a Muslim country, because these are just human beings and they deserve to be treated like human beings. And we support that idea. So it becomes really upsetting when we have these people lying about what we're doing in order to try and silence us. And I think that's one of those really horrible things that we can also bring to the table when we try to discuss this, is why is it okay for you to lie about what we're doing in order for you to protect your religion? Why is that okay? Because if we were sitting here telling lies about your religion, or about you as an individual, that would be, you would have all kinds of problems with that. but you see no problem with lying about us, and that's just not cool. That's something that I think we need to bring.
Casper's account sometimes gets disconnected. He has some internet problem.
I try to give it just a few seconds, but I'm going to go ahead. Casper, thanks a lot for all of that, for all of your thoughts on that. Really good points, and I think it is important to keep in mind that we are in a privileged position here. A lot of us, not all of us. We have people who join our Hangouts who are from regions of the world that are targeted, and they live in violent situations. But a lot of us here are in privileged position of being able to say, kind of shrugging it off. Not everybody in Atheist Republic and the broader community has that luxury, and that's an important point to note. I think I'm going to make an executive decision to switch this up a little. Because on that note, I would like Ray to share some of his thoughts and experiences. He is in a relatively dangerous, I wouldn't want to say relatively, he is in a dangerous area. And I would like to hear what he thinks about this, some of what his experiences are. And then after that, I have Ollie and Todd in the lineup, and then we have a couple people afterwards. So I think what I'll do is I'll say, Ray, you can go next, and then Ollie, if you'd like to chime in, go ahead and just unmute yourself right after Ray is done.
All right, thank you, Makisha. I'm sorry I cannot reveal my face for now. It's really dark. I'm using the internet connection in a park, since I can't use any other internet connection. The last time I used a Wi-Fi in a mini market, they blocked me suddenly, so I have to run away for now. Things are even more unsafe for me, even the month. As everyone already know, this 1 month called Ramadan is held right now. A special month, let's just say special for those Muslims, but to be honest, it is actually a very oppressive month for the non-Muslims in real life. Even in real life, many restaurants in many different cities in Indonesia are being forced to close down. Even the police use violence against the restaurant owners, and it happens many times. So like for the non-believers who wish to open up their restaurants and such, it has been quite a difficult month, and the attack against the non-believers are getting even more real. So the oppression, it does not happen only in the internet, it also happens in real life. This shows how more aggressive they have become, especially since the Ramadan session has started. And as for me, myself, I also feel oppressed because sometimes, no, not sometimes, I always drink outside, I always eat outside, even though the other Muslims are fasting. And then they start to staring at me and they said, oh, what the fuck, you're not respecting us. You should just go eat in the toilet or wherever else and no one can see. And then my other friends who are not Muslim, they also feel oppressed. They said to me that those Muslims actually make things worse for everyone else. And let's just be honest, I don't want any other Muslim people listen to what I'm saying right now. So I guess that's all I can say to all of you right now. Thank you, and back to you, Makisha.
I love how Ray always tosses it back. I feel like I'm in the news. Thank you so much, Ray, and we appreciate you and everything you go through for Atheist Republic. It is a very real and present problem there, and the fact that you are hassled for where you eat, I think, really kind of brings it home. So we've kind of mixed things up while Ray was talking. I know Andrew had a potential point, but I want to make sure that he thinks it's appropriate to go now. So Andrew, can you just chime in the chat? And does anybody else want to go after that thought after Andrew goes. I think Todd had some things to say. Okay, great. So Andrew, you go ahead and go, and then I assume you're going to bring up a point that we're all going to talk about, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone. Just to give you guys a bit of context on my experience with this. So this is my third Facebook account that I had to create, and they've all been shut down for various reasons, but mostly because they've been reported. And the more recent one was in the recent spate of reportings, and so I, along with several other admins, had my account shut down. And the reason why I don't have my cam on, and Hassan is a much braver man than I am, is because the first time around I had to delete my account on account of the fact that someone from my high school had caught on to the fact that I was part of the Atheist Republic team, and then had threatened me and my family, and things got ugly quite quick, as ugly as they can get, really, without something actually physically happening. So that's a bit of the context on this. So first I want to say again that Hassan is quite a brave man for having his cam up. He might not think so himself, but I definitely do. And then on another point, and a bit of a tangent, but I think is relevant, I always struggle with how to approach critiquing religion, and so it has to. My approach is more conciliatory, and that's not to say that anything other than my approach is antagonistic, but I think we struggle in that we are a Facebook group page, and we operate on several other social media platforms, and so naturally part of that is us trying to get as much reach as possible, and so there's a battle in terms of how do we actually get the message across, and what kind of posts do we need to make to get traction? How do we get more traction on posts? And so I'm assuming we tend to see that the more sort of antagonistic posts get more traction. And that's not to say that the Kaaba post was. Armin is shaking his head. Perhaps the use of antagonistic is the wrong word, but anything that obviously we would not consider antagonistic, but other people would. So again, people being offended is subjective, and so naturally we can't tell every time they're going to be. But the Kaaba one was, I assume, kind of an easy guess. To bring this home, do we think when we post something like the Kaaba image that we're going to have a positive impact? And what is the impact that we intend to have? What are we trying to do when we post an image like that? We're making a statement that says, yes, this was a great move in the U.S. and we'd like to see this happen elsewhere. And so I totally agree with that message, and I'm sure we all do. But we all genuinely, knowing that these kind of images upset people, reaction tends to be violent and maybe we should shed light. Maybe that actually enforces our. The question is, do we stand to benefit from a more conciliatory approach? Do we want to draw people into a discussion rather than a shouting match? And so my question to everyone is, do you all genuinely think that images being posted of that nature on our Facebook page and our social media platforms achieve anything positive in that regard? Are we starting a discussion or a shouting match? And so I'm going to mute myself. Happy to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay, so just to Andrew cut out a little bit off and on, so I just want to maybe summarize. When Atheist Republic posts something that is a holy building, a relic, a holy person, a holy book, and photoshops it, comments on it, does anything to it, obviously we know that that is going to be somewhat inflammatory. It's going to get people's emotions in a bit of a frenzy. So there's a handful of questions there. Do we think that's positively productive? Do we care if it's positive? Is positivity what we're going for? Is a positive response or feedback what we're going for? What exactly is the motivation? Is that something we've thought about? And how do you guys feel about using things that are maybe a little bit of a stick in the hornet's nest? So I know that Todd had some thoughts that he wanted to share, but I don't know, Todd, do you want to share? Is it now a good time to? Okay, great. So we'll start with Todd, and then you can just raise a hand, and I'll call on you after that.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be back with you. There's been a couple of things in the last couple of things. Makisha and Andrew brought up some points that really dovetail nicely with what I wanted to say. Firstly, one of the things that we've seen is that reporting is more effective than prayer. So there's that. The thing that gets me is dogma. The dogma that Hassan was referring to earlier. That has the effect of a mafia boss, and it turns everybody that follows that dogma into enforcers. That's the only reaction that they have. And Casper brought up some great points. The lying to promote a specific agenda, and then turning around and saying that is your God against lying? Is it all but is it all but in this case, or is it okay to lie to these people, or is it okay to lie for this purpose? But then to turn around and to make such absolute claims is inconsistent, and the lack of concern for humanity simply because someone else disagrees. Those are the fundamental things that we're dealing with. And for me, what those things boil down to, and what those express to me whenever I see those, and whenever I see the awful, horrible things that have been posted, and my reaction to those, and my reaction to hearing the things that you guys are experiencing, is that we're staring at an alarming level of cowardice. It's an unwillingness to meet on level ground. It is a very much a mafia mentality. I did a sort of a vlog on tolerance that touched on something that Makisha referred to earlier, as far as it being, well, no, I'm sorry, not Makisha, it was Ali, referred to bullies, bully control. Whenever you step into the public space, that's public space, and you're free to disagree, but exercising bully control over public space, I'm sorry, no, that's why that space is public. If we allow bully control, then free speech is no longer free. It's that public space is now occupied by squatters who will silence anyone who disagrees, and there's no longer any such thing as free speech or public space. So I think we have an ethical duty to maintain the public nature of that space, and we do that through exercising free speech where we can and as we can, because I understand that Casper made a great point that there are so many people in our community that are not in positions to do that, and my heart goes out to you guys. I have the utmost respect and love for you guys, and can scarcely imagine what your experience is like. But I know I echo the sentiment of many others who have been in the community a lot longer than I have, that sparks in me an ethical duty to be that voice and to say things that you perhaps can't, and to speak on your behalf when I can. One of the things that to kind of dovetail on what Casper said, my question would be, if we're going to do a discussion, that kind of thing, my question would be, amid all the anger and everything, what is your objection? Ultimately, what is your objection? That's my fundamental question. Is if we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about it, then okay. If you're objecting, then tell me what your objection is, because I want to understand. Now, as far as some of the things that Andrew brought up, I'll try to make this real quick, because I know we have space. I want to make space for others, but One of the things that we're dealing with, unfortunately, is we're living in the times of the death of the author. That so many times, especially with images being so prevalent now, and that being such an emotionally evocative art form, people will look at it and they'll react, and they will assume, based on their emotional reaction, they will assume an intent, that you created this image specifically to evoke this response that they are having, that it was meant as a personal attack on them because they feel it is a personal attack. They don't stop to ask questions. They don't stop to ask what was meant by this. That's not anything that they even have in their mind. Their initial emotional reaction is the only reality that they live in, and that's the only thing that matters to them, because the world stops right here, and they don't go any further. They don't stop to ask, okay, I had this reaction. What did you mean? Did you intend this? Is this an intention you had, or is this just a side effect, or does this say more about me than it does about you? So that we're dealing with that. That's a lot of the mentality that we're dealing with whenever we have these things. And as far as it being a discussion versus a shouting match, personally, I would rather it be a discussion, and I think all of us here would. And I don't think, whenever we create these, these images or any sort of media whatsoever, I don't think we're yelling back. I think it's, but to anyone who has that sort of violent emotional reaction, even a whisper is going to sound like a shout. And so what I would like to do is I would like to turn this, and I would like to springboard this into an opportunity. So I'd like to get some thoughts from you guys as to how we turn this into a discussion, especially whenever people who fundamentally approach discussion as la 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 la, I can't hear it, I'm not listening unless you agree, So how do you have a discussion with that? And secondly, even if they start shouting, which they have. I think it speaks to the character of the community and to individuals as well, to not shout back, but simply to respond in discussion and to invite those questions. Fine, if you want to shout, that's fine. I'm hearing what you're saying. What are you shouting about? What is your objection? Let's get to the heart of that. So whenever you're done shouting and your voice is hoarse, then maybe we can get down to the root of things. And I'd be all for producing some things that hit on that go delve below the reaction, and the psychological effect that those threats have, getting to the heart of it and asking those questions. What exactly are you objecting to? Why are you shouting so loudly? And why are you so unwilling to meet on level ground to sit down and talk about it? And how can you say it's peaceful if your idea of peace is that everyone in the world agrees with you, and until then it's all out war and anyone who doesn't? Those are the questions I'd like to have an answer to. And on a personal note, with this I'll close. I do like the fact that so many here have pointed out that it's not all groups. It's not all Muslim. I mean even something that Ray said is everybody's not like that. And I don't have, living where I live in the buckle of the Bible Belt, I don't have a lot of contact with Muslims. But one guy that I do have contact with, I work with, he's Pakistani, and he and I have discussions about family and kids and everything like that. I don't think he even knows I'm an atheist, because I haven't, that discussion hasn't come up. He may even assume that I'm a Christian, but he knows that I'm not a Muslim. And we still have those discussions. We still, talk back and forth. We even use the word brother when talking to each other. So, so that's that's one of the relationships that I actually enjoy. And I find that even in the middle of the Muslim community, probably as with any others, they're at our core, we are much more alike than we are different, and we have much more to talk about than we do to shout about. So I'll turn it back over to you, Makisha.
Thanks, Todd. I feel like I should be tossing it over to Stormy in the weather. So there are a ton of good thoughts that are being also talked about in our chat and mentioned in the chat. I'm I'm just going to let people speak up if they want. I was going to try to kind of summarize some of these little thoughts, but I've lost track now and my brain isn't functioning. So if anybody wants to speak up about what you've chatted about on the sidebar, and you want to say it on the video, then please do so. I know Ollie has been wanting to talk for a while and has probably some good things to say. I do want to thank Andrew for bringing up those questions. I don't think we're necessarily going to have all the best answers today, right now, in the next 10 minutes that we have available to us, but those are really good questions to keep asking. We need to keep asking each other, and we need to keep asking ourselves, because what we're hoping to accomplish, who we're speaking to in particular, and what goals we have are really important things to consider as Atheist Republic. If you have thoughts or ideas about that, please email us. We're always available. We want to hear what you all in the community have to say and how you think we should be approaching these issues. Those are important questions and important things to talk about. So please do share. You can comment in the YouTube video if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below. And we'll read those and possibly share them on the website. So anytime you want to be anonymous, don't share it in a public space. And if you email us and you want to remain anonymous, please do let us know. So I'm going to toss it over to Ollie to share, and then we'll hopefully have a few more minutes to wrap up. We can go over if we need, but not too much. Ollie, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to kind of say that I really agree with Andrew asking these questions in the first place. I think they need to be asked, and I think more importantly, they need to be answered. You know, we exist in a virtual world a lot of times with this group, and I think we also have to consider the real-world implications of some of these threats and the nature of our relationship with Islam and some of the other major world religions as well. But I don't think anything that we're seeing now is, you know, sort of anomalous. Historically, all religions that are organized and have any kind of following tend to engage in censorship, and sometimes it's in a battle of words, and other times it's outright violence. And I think we see both still continuing today, and we get a lot more attention to Islam because they're the ones, you know, that tend to be most violent, I guess, comparatively in our contemporary society. But this, I mean, historically, if you want to look at any other era that another religion was dominant in that part of the world, or in Europe, or even here, I mean, you know, censorship and radicalism is not a new thing, and I think we should address it the same way it's always been addressed. And I think, as Andrew points out, we do need to consider the paradox between what we can do, you know, in our defensive principles like free speech and, you know, secularist ideas that nothing is sacred, and then what we should be doing. And sometimes those are not necessarily in harmony. I'm not a fan of censorship. I don't advocate for that. And as some of the other comments have pointed out, you're not really going to be able to reason with people who, you know, are completely unwilling to consider alternative perspectives or factual information. So there's, you know, it's obviously complicated and very nuanced, and I think that's something that we have to keep in mind when we deal with these things, because otherwise we risk descending into something we don't want to become also as a group. And I think a big part of that is trying to learn to separate our individual reactions from our organizational presence on the web and how we represent AR. But again, I mean, I wouldn't advocate to take these images down. I think all I'm really saying is that I would advocate for a very thoughtful response in how we proceed from here in exposing the threats and you know, Facebook's inability to regulate and, you know, keep up with us in terms of getting spammed off of our web presence and all of that. But I think excellent questions from Andrew, and we should all be having an open dialogue and trying to come up with an organizational solution that works for everybody.
Thanks, Ollie. Those are all really, really great points and very well spoken. Lovely to hear your voice. Does anybody else have any feedback in particular to Andrew's pushback? Specifically, anybody maybe who shared a lot on the sidebar?
Casper had something to say.
Yeah. I've made.
He had something to say until his connection.
Hello. Oh, sorry. I locked up there for again.
Maybe try turning your camera off, Casper.
Sorry. Let me mute my camera and see if that helps. Okay.
Okay.
So I've made the point on my other page on God Doesn't Matter.
It didn't help.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
That's not helpful. No worries.
Okay. I've made the point on my other page on God Doesn't Matter that one of the things that's most.
If you type it out, I could read it out loud.
I'm sorry. I keep locking up. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all speak.
Sorry, Casper.
Okay.
You always have so many good things to say. If you type what you want to say, then Armin can.
No, Keisha could read it out. I think she would do a better job. But I just, while he types it out, I'll just want to point out that I think, some people are saying that you're purposefully trying to be offensive, and people who say that, they don't look at our other posts, right? This is like one out of so many of our posts, and people are like, why aren't you posting about science and this and interesting articles? They're like, look at our page. I mean, that's most of what we post. It's not our fault that this Photoshopped rainbow Kaaba, which shouldn't be offensive to anybody, all of a sudden gets so much attention. That's on you that it's getting so much attention. We're not spreading. We would like all our posts to get attention. The amount of attention that the number of Muslims that have seen this has increased. Like, more Muslims have seen this image than atheists, because they are spreading it around. They are telling everybody, like, oh my God, look how offensive these are. Well, don't show it to people that will get offended. We didn't show it to people that got offended. We showed it to atheists. You're going around and showing it to people that will get offended. You're offending people. Well, if you want people to not be offended, well, stop offending people. Why are you showing it to people that don't want to see this? We're putting it in a community that is for atheists. And if somebody is on our page that doesn't like seeing it, they could really easily block us. They could unfollow us. It's not on us that you're seeing stuff that you don't want to see. You're either looking for stuff that you want to get offended by. You're either like you enjoy being offended or enjoy being a victim of something, or you just don't know how to use Facebook. Learn how to make your newsfeed be exactly the things that you want to see. It's really easy. I could personally contact us. I could show you how to do it. I could show you how to block our page if you want to not to see our posts anymore. Another thing about us being offended is that we actually go out of our way to find that Muslim that says, like, hey, I'm sorry, this is not me. This is your page. You guys have the right to say whatever you want on your page. I apologize for this behavior. We go out of our way. We screenshot that and take out their name, so that take out his name so that is not in danger. And we show it to everybody to show, like, hey, look, there are peaceful Muslims out there, and we show it to people. And I know Ali said that it's 1 in 100. Actually, it was more like 1 in 10,000 based on what I've seen. But might not be because it might be because there's less of them. It also might be because they're the ones that do think like that. They're just scared of saying anything. Or it might be a factor of both. But there are those Muslims out there that think that this is the amount of reaction that we're getting from Muslims are insane. We have even had Muslims that they say they actually like the image. We have openly, we have on the page, the girl said, I'm a Muslim and I think this is pretty. Right? And another thing, do we want this post to get attention? Yes. Why? Because we have even had so many gay and lesbian people contacting us and telling us that they really appreciate the support. In Middle Eastern or other Muslim countries, they're telling us that we appreciate the fact that you're not forgetting us. This is not, the fight for gay rights is not just a Western fight. There are many other countries that need more attention in this struggle. And do we want this image to get more attention? Of course we want this image to get attention. We want to let these other people know that there's somebody out there that gives a shit about them. There are people, there are communities that still, if they live in environments that they can say what they want, we are here, and we live in a safe, some of us live in safe areas, so we have the freedom to say whatever we want. So we're gonna lend our freedom to the people that don't have the freedom to say whatever they want. We're gonna speak for them, and they appreciate that. So do we want these messages to get around as much as possible? Yes, but we want it to get to the people that like it, that they appreciate the support. The people that are sending it to people that get offended by it are not us, are the Muslims spreading it around. We're not spreading it around to Muslims. We're not forcing content to people that don't want to see it. Anyways, that was my rant.
Okay, so I want to share what Casper had to say. And he said that I just want to add that one of the things that really shows the true nature and mindset of the religious is when their assumptions to privilege are challenged, which is a matter of people who think they deserve a level of privilege that allows them to dictate the words and actions of others who disagree with them, which is, I think, a huge thing that we've talked about quite a lot here, which is that just because you think something is special doesn't mean you get to put that specialness onto other people and force them to think that it's special. I can't just take this pen and say that this is my very most special pen. You never get to talk bad about this pen. You never get to look bad at this pen. You have to, in fact, go out and talk how wonderful this pen is to everybody because I love this pen. That's not how things work. If you think something is special, then treat it special. Don't Photoshop a rainbow over it. We're not making you Photoshop a rainbow over it. But we don't think that it's that special, and there was a message there. So essentially what I hear Armin saying, and Andrew asked, again, I really do think it's a good question, and I think it's important for us to very carefully and rationally think this through and have an answer for this, because it's going to keep coming up, and it's going to come up from people who don't like us as well. And one of the things that I think is really important, there's 2 points. One, I think it's important for us to show solidarity with people who, if they posted that image because it's important to them, they would probably be killed. So there's a solidarity thing there. We have the power to send a message, to say something that is a little bit provocative, and we're not at risk, and so we're showing a little bit of solidarity in that. The other thing is that there's something to be said for the provocateurs in the world, that the people who poke, the people who prod, the people who do things that, yes, we know it's going to get people pissed off, and no, we don't care, because we believe that it's going to get people talking and thinking, and it's going to show the absurdity. It's actually going to bring out the absurdity of the thing that we think is holding people down, that is oppressing people, that is violating people's rights, that is hurting children and hurting women and hurting the people who are the most vulnerable in the world. And so, yes, it is intentionally provocative. When we do intentionally provocative things, we do need to think about that and be careful with it. We had conversations about this image in the group, so I don't think it was completely thoughtless. And so there is a value to being purposefully provocative, and we do play that role. Atheist Republic does play that role, but we are primarily in the business of creating a community of atheists, not placating people. Atheist Republic is actually not an interfaith dialogue group, and that's important to keep in mind. If Atheist Republic was a group that was intentionally, our sole or primary purpose was to go out and make friends with other religions for a particular purpose, then I think I would push back even more against this than Andrew did. But Atheist Republic is not. That's not what we are. We're a community of atheists reaching out to other atheists, and I think that's important to keep in mind. So that image was a little bit of a yay, love, freedom. Let's help spread that beyond North America, where it's pretty easy for us to have. And so there was that, and then there was a little bit of poking there, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. So that's kind of what I am hearing from everybody, what I'm trying to sort of wrap up a little bit. Armin, go ahead.
Just one last comment. If with regards to your pen analogy, if you say that this is my special pen, and I don't like somebody making fun of it, just hurts me if you make fun of it, I'm not going to make fun of it. If you say that this is my special pen and you can't make fun of it and you're not being very successful at stopping people at making fun of it, then I'm also not going to make fun of it. But all of a sudden, if you say this is my special pen and you should not make fun of it, and now all of a sudden you're managing to be successful at controlling people and legislating and getting content removed because people are talking about your pen, then I'm going to go rainbow color the shit out of your pen and spread it as much as possible just to make a point. It's not about just you being offended. I'm not interested in offending you just because you're being offended. If you're offended, then I'm not going to really try to offend you. I'm not trying to be sadistic here. But if you manage to all of a sudden think that you get to go around and tell people, and successfully tell people what they can and cannot say, then I think, yes, you have to provoke just to make a point that you can't go around and control people based on your feelings. It's your responsibility to not see what you don't like to see. Unless somebody comes and forces down their offensive content on you, and there's no way for you not to see it, then you have a point. Yes, people should not be able to expose you forcefully to things that you don't like to see. But if I'm putting that in an area where it's specifically marked that this is for us, and you come and poke around and look at it and you find things that you don't like, then you get the fuck out of there. You don't like it, just don't come here. This is not an area for you. This is not your place to be. Don't come and look for stuff that offends you. Thanks.
Yeah, which is exactly. I think this conversation about why are we intentionally provocative is a good conversation in general. When it comes to Atheist Republic, though, again, we're not trying to reach out and make peace necessarily as a vision or a goal of the group. We're not an interfaith organization. So I think that's important to keep in mind when we're talking about this particular conversation. I do think that from a philosophical, broader perspective, how we communicate our message is important. I know that Armin would not insult my pen if I told him it hurt my feelings personally, but if I started telling everybody that and forcing people and sticking my pen in people's faces and walking around and making everyone use my pen and love my pen, then he would start talking about my pen. He would still be nice to me, but the pen would become an issue, and that's kind of, I think, where we're at here. If we have a friend who cares about that particular image, we can have that conversation as a friend, and I'm not going to shove that image in that person's face, but the image and why that image is so offensive, that's the issue, and that's really what's coming to the fore. And that, I think, is the interesting conversation, and that's why I think it's important that we shape the conversation instead of the religious people shaping the conversation in the public sphere. We need to bring it back to what's really important, which is, okay, really, we've got to talk about why this is so important. And we've got to talk about why this is making you threaten my life, because that's the important issue here, not whether or not we put a rainbow on a building in Photoshop. We didn't even violate the building. Like, we didn't go there and drape a flag over the building. We just did it in Photoshop. Okay, so we're at 10 minutes after. Does anybody have anything that they would like to say on close? Andrew, I'm going to give you a chance to respond because I am so nice that way. Go ahead.
Thanks, Makisha. It's not so much a response as it is, well, it is a response. I'm going to disagree with Armin a bit on something he just said about whether, if people are coming to our page and getting offended, good. Come to our page and get offended. Only so that we're consistent in our logic. We are talking about people being oppressed in countries that we don't live in. We're talking about people being oppressed by religious constructs in places that we'll never encounter. We might never experience that oppression. None of us live in ISIS-controlled territory. None of us live in Saudi Arabia, or at least no one on the panel that I know of. And so I'm quite happy with them coming to the page and getting offended. What I'm unhappy with is that the conversation isn't a conversation. They're coming to the page, and rather than having a rational discussion about the pen, they're saying, I'm going to kill you over this pen. And that's not okay. But I do think they should come to the page. The more this material gets shared in the Muslim community, the better. Let it get shared. And then if you want to have a discussion, a rational, logical discussion about it, we're more than happy to do that. But don't tell us you're going to kill us. That's not a conversation. That's you reinforcing the very stereotypes that people apply to all Muslims. And I know that we try and stay in that gray area where, or rather, we make the distinction between mocking or rather taking issue with an ideology as opposed to individuals. And I think that's an important distinction at all times. And I'll speak for myself, and I hope for everyone, when I say that our issue is with the ideology and not with the individuals. But these are individuals representing the ideology. And so we're back in that gray area of who's at fault and what's at fault. But point being, I'm quite happy with them being offended. And I'm quite happy for them targeting our page and coming to our page to be offended. As long as the result of that is a conversation told that, our mother, we're going to get stabbed and decapitated, and, the series of threats that we all saw. And so that was my one response to what Armin said. But otherwise, I wholeheartedly agree with everything everyone said. And I'm going to mute my mic now.
I'm going to let Armin respond to that, and then Erasmo has a question, and then I would like us, if we can, to wrap up after that. So, Armin, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually agree. I mean, when I say they should, they get offended, they could leave. I'm not saying that I would want them to leave, or if I care if they're offended. They could be offended all they want. I don't have an issue with that. I'm not sad about them being offended. The thing is, what I'm saying is that it's on them, that they're being offended. It's not on us. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying nobody could blame us for them being offended because we didn't force these content on them. They came here and they saw it. I would actually prefer if they stayed because, do these spark conversations? Actually, they do. Yes, it's true that the crazy ones, they get the most amount of attention, and we actually try not to do that. We try to show that the peaceful Muslim gets attention as well, even though it's really hard to find them sometimes. I mean, not that they're not out there, it's just that some of them are scared to speak. But when they do speak, and when they do say that this is crazy, these other Muslims are crazy, I'm a Muslim, and I think you guys should say whatever you want. We are fair, and we bring the attention to them. And I think there's a lot of, if you look at if you read the comments, yes, the crazy comment is usually right at the top, and everybody's commenting on it. But there's a lot of, discussions happening just on the post. On the image, if there's at least 10,000 comments there, there's a lot of conversation. Right now, as we speak, there's conversations going on. Not all of them are crazy. you know, people are having the same discussions that we're having here right now. You know, atheists are disagreeing with atheists. Muslims are fighting Muslims, disagreeing with Muslims there, right? So a lot of Muslims are trying to rediscover themselves and figuring out what they believe in, or if they agree with what. And you know, these stuff are making them think that those crazy threats, they're out there, but every one of those crazy threats is causing so many more discussions, and even if they're, and more than the discussions, I think there's a lot of bystanders that are not even commenting, that they're just reading. We have, you know, I do think every time we post something like this and you see 10,000 comments on a post, we are changing people's views. And you know, and another thing is that even the chat matches and the crazy comments and the threats, those people might be the last ones that ever change their mind on anything. If somebody thinks that they get to kill me because what I said is probably not very likely, that that guy one day is going to doubt his or her faith, even though it's not impossible. But I think them putting that in public, and people, you know, we have so many liberals in the West that think that this is not, this is not an issue, and these are just fringe radical groups that say stuff like this, and they come to this post and they see for every one, I mean, Muslim that says this is okay, there's 10,000 threats and insults, and they were like, okay, some of them are like, you know, this is actually a more bigger problem than I thought. So I think they, even the crazy comments, they actually serve a purpose to show other people that this is a major, even to some Muslims get shocked about how much negative reaction we got. And for them, they're like, okay, now I see why some people, you know, they get embarrassed sometimes, and they see why some people are sometimes scared a little bit. Anyways.
And I think it is important also to point out that by asking the question, why are you doing this, there is not an implication that the answer is not implied. It's a sincere question. The question is not leading or rhetorical. It really is saying perhaps it's a good idea to question the intent as well as the potential consequences when we have such a large platform and a great responsibility with great power. So I think it is a good and sincere question to ask ourselves as individuals and to ask ourselves as Atheist Republic, not just in each instance, but on the whole. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Is it effective? Can we rationally look at the numbers? Can we look at what's going on and say, is this effective? Maybe the answer is no. Maybe the answer continues to be yes, and shut up and stop asking the question. But it's a good question to ask, and it's a good question for us to consider. And by asking the question, we're not suggesting that we pander to people's offense. This question is not for the people who are offended. It's not taking that into consideration. It's actually, the question is for us. The question is for our own selves, and we have to make those kinds of decisions and be okay with whatever consequences might come about from that. So so that's good, and the goal is important to always keep in mind. What is our goal as Atheist Republic? And we all as individuals have a responsibility to the community, not just our own individual mores or issues or whatever we might have. So there was one question that I believe Erasmo wanted to ask quickly, and then maybe this conversation will need to spill over into another week. Go ahead, Erasmo.
Okay. This question goes to Armin specifically. I wanted to know if, regarding the accumulative threats that Atheist Republic has been gathering as of now, I was wondering if you have a strategy plan as of now, or of how to handle these threats in the future, even before they become a greater threat. Because we have been talking about this for an hour and 20 minutes now, and I noticed that not meaning to be a party pooper, but I don't think we have come to a solution. So I wanted to ask you if you have any strategies and if we can help in any way. I want to help in any way that's possible.
Well, I think these threats, what we have done has been very effective. What Casper has done, Casper has selected some of the responses. He wrote an article about it called A Moderate Response. And then after we had more threats, he wrote another article about it. He called it Atheist Republic is under attack again. And we linked to these articles within the YouTube video and for this, and a description of this Hangout. And I think the response should be exactly what we did. We display it to our audience. We have a Hangout like this about it. We generate more conversation. And the thing is that we are raising awareness about the fact that this is a problem. A lot of people don't know that when you talk about something that most people don't find offensive, but some people do, you get such a heavy backlash. Like the numbers that we have received is actually unbelievable. And people should see that if we in Canada and United States and in UK and other free countries we get such a backlash, imagine what it must be like for somebody in the gay community in Saudi Arabia, right, or in Pakistan. Like, what the hell must they be living in, right? And I think, we basically show the people that made these threats that their strategy backfired. They actually brought more attention to how much of how crazy they are, rather than the fact that, rather than removing any of our images, which was not removed yet. Some of our other posts was removed that had nothing to do with the image. What we are trying to do is basically the same as what the Draw Muhammad Day cartoon does. A lot of Muslims are now desensitized with Muhammad cartoons. They don't give a shit anymore. And we even have Muslims now feeling more encouraged to come out and say, you know what, I don't give a shit about people that draw Muhammad. I think it's a freedom of speech. There's more of them, and now other Muslims are saying that there's more of them, and they feel more empowered to say that, hey, I don't, it's my religion. In my religion, I can't draw Muhammad. It's not their fucking religion, so they could draw it if they want, because it's not their fucking religion. It's not against their rules, right? We see Muslims saying that. Why? Because of the campaigns like Draw Muhammad Day that brought attention to this. So we bringing attention to this, that it's not just Muhammad. These Muslims want to censor anything that criticizes Islam. By doing that, we are basically trying to show Muslims that these kind of reactions don't work. What did they try to do? They tried to remove us. It didn't work. They tried to remove the image. It didn't work. What did it do? It brought more attention to their reactions. That was not their intention. And we're serving two purposes. We're showing some other people that are not Muslim that this is a problem, and we're showing Muslims that are offended that their strategy didn't work. And we're also showing peaceful Muslims that if they do support freedom of expressions, we, as atheists, we will shine a light on them. Even though we don't agree with them on their religion, we will support them supporting freedom of expression. So even if they have a negative backlash from their own Muslim community, at least if they want our support, some of them don't, if they want our support, they could count on it.
On that note, thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Thank you for the lively conversation of our panelists, the great questions and great feedback that we've received. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us here every Sunday. If you love Atheist Republic, please go to atheistrepublic.com, volunteer, toss a few pennies our way. What we do isn't free. It is not free of our time or of our finances, and we appreciate your support. You can comment with any questions or feedback you have down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can email us through our website. You can contact us through Facebook, all kinds of ways, no excuses. We always love hearing from you. We like getting guest submissions if you would like to write for our newsletter, for the blog. If you don't want to be a team member, just email us. We like getting those guest submissions as well. We do have a newsletter. If you're not aware of it, you can find it through our website, atheistrepublic.com. Everything is right there. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you again next Sunday.